All right, welcome to this explainer. Think of our time together today as a highly focused pre-flight ground briefing. If you're gearing up for your FAA private pilot check ride, you already know that the oral exam can be a pretty nerve-wracking experience. Your designated pilot examiner, or DPE, is definitely going to dig deep into your regulatory knowledge, especially when it comes to your medical fitness to fly. So today, we are going to master one of the absolute most testable areas in modern aviation regulations, BasicMed. Our goal here is incredibly simple. Study smart, fly safe. Let's get you completely check ride ready.
To make sure you've got a rock-solid mental framework for that oral exam, here is our exact briefing flow for today. We'll start by comparing the traditional third-class medical to BasicMed. Then, we'll cover the eligibility requirements, followed by the operating and aircraft limits. After that, we'll walk through the CMEC physical exam, and finally, we'll review the specific disqualifying medical conditions.
Let's jump right into Part 1, Third Class versus BasicMed.
So picture this. Your DPE sits down and immediately asks why a pilot might choose BasicMed over a traditional third-class medical. It's a classic question. Here's exactly how you contrast them. For a third-class medical, you absolutely must visit a specialized aviation medical examiner, or AME. It's valid for 5 years if you're under 40, or 2 years if you're over 40, and crucially, it expires at the end of the month of your examination. BasicMed, on the other hand, is an alternative pathway. Instead of an AME, you can use literally any state-licensed physician. The recurrency schedule is totally different, too. You need a physical exam every 4 years and an online medical course every 2 years. And here is a massive trap that catches so many students. BasicMed privileges expire on the exact date of your examination or course completion, not at the end of the month. You've really got to memorize that distinction.
Moving on to Part 2, BasicMed eligibility requirements.
Now, you can't just wake up one day and decide to fly under BasicMed out of the blue. You have to meet some strict prerequisites. First up, you must possess a current, valid U.S. driver's license. Essentially, your driver's license acts as your medical certificate when you're actually in the aircraft. Second, and this is a huge date to sear into your memory, you must have held a valid FAA medical certificate at any time after July 14, 2006. If your medical lapsed before that date, or if you've never even held one, you're going to have to go get a one-time medical from an AME first. Finally, your most recent application for a medical cannot have been denied, and your most recent medical certificate cannot have been revoked, suspended, or withdrawn.
Next up, Part 3, Operating and Aircraft Limits.
Listen up, because this is arguably the most heavily tested portion of BasicMed right now. Why? Well, because these numbers just changed, and DPEs will definitely be checking to see if you're up to date with the FAA Reauthorization Act. As of November 12, 2024, BasicMed saw a major expansion. Under these new rules, the maximum certificated takeoff weight for your aircraft is now 12,500 pounds. That is a huge jump from the old 6,000-pound limit. You're also now allowed to fly an aircraft with a maximum of 7 seats, and you can carry up to 6 passengers. If you've got old study materials laying around, make sure you update these figures in your head right now.
Now, these aren't just numbers on a page. They matter the second you step out onto the ramp. As pilot in command, it is 100% your responsibility to ensure the aircraft you're stepping into legally complies with BasicMed. Let's say you walk up to an aircraft with 8 seats. Even if you're only flying with one other person, you cannot legally act as PIC under BasicMed in that airplane. The aircraft itself has to meet the certification criteria.
Beyond the actual airplane, you've got a very specific operational flight envelope to memorize. First, you're limited to a maximum airspeed of 250 knots indicated. Your maximum altitude is at or below 18,000 feet mean sea level, which conveniently means you absolutely cannot operate in Class A airspace. You're perfectly legal to fly under both Visual Flight Rules, or VFR, and Instrument Flight Rules, IFR, provided you're properly rated for it. Geographically, you can fly within the U.S., its territories, the Bahamas, and Mexico. And finally, the golden rule of BasicMed, you cannot fly for compensation or hire. It is strictly for recreational, personal, and training flights.
All right, Part 4, the CMEC physical exam.
Let's treat this paperwork exactly like an aircraft flow checklist. Step 1. You print out FAA Form 8700-2. We call this the Comprehensive Medical Examination Checklist, or CMEC for short. Step 2. You, the airman, fill out Section 2, detailing your medical history. Step 3. You take this form to a state-licensed physician who performs a wellness-style physical and completes Section 3.
Step 4. You must take a free online aeromedical course provided by AOPA or the Mayo Clinic. And finally, Step 5. You take that signed CMEC form and your course completion certificate, and you keep them safely tucked away in your logbook.
Now, here's a really liberating fact for us pilots when it comes to that signature block. The physicians signing this form, they do not need to be an AME. Seriously, it can just be your regular primary care doctor, a cardiologist, or any state-licensed physician. They're basically just conducting an exam similar to what you'd need for scuba diving or operating a commercial motor vehicle. They are simply attesting that they aren't aware of any medical condition that would interfere with your ability to safely operate a small aircraft.
But here's the catch to validate that form, and a detail a DPE might definitely probe you on to see if you really understand your own documents. The doctor has to provide their specific state license number and medical license number. While advanced practice providers like, say, a nurse practitioner might assist with taking your vitals during the exam, only the state licensed physician can make the final affirmation and sign those specific fields.
So how often do we actually have to do all of this? Well, you've essentially got two separate clocks ticking. Every 24 calendar months, you have to complete that free online aeromedical course. But the actual physical exam with your physician, that is only required every 48 months. And remember what we established a few minutes ago. Unlike a third-class medical that gives you until the end of the month, these BasicMed intervals expire on the exact calendar date of the course or the exam.
Finally, we hit Part 5, disqualifying medical conditions.
Okay, close your eyes and imagine sitting across the desk from your examiner. The DPE leans in and asks, what specific medical conditions require you to get a one-time special issuance from an AME before you can legally fly under BasicMed? This is a direct test of how well you know your regulatory boundaries. There are 3 categories you need to be able to recall right off the top of your head: mental, neurological, and cardiovascular.
Let's calmly break these down, starting with mental health disorders. A clinical diagnosis of a severe personality disorder, psychosis, bipolar disorder, or substance dependence within the previous 2 years will automatically disqualify you. Moving over to neurological disorders, the list includes epilepsy or frankly any disturbance of consciousness or transient loss of nervous system control that doesn't have a satisfactory medical explanation. If you have any of these, there's no way around it. You cannot use BasicMed until you go back to the FAA and obtain a special issuance medical certificate.
And finally, we have cardiovascular conditions. There are exactly 4 specific heart issues that trigger the requirement for a one-time special issuance. They are a myocardial infarction, which is commonly known as a heart attack, coronary heart disease that has required treatment, a cardiac valve replacement, or a heart replacement. If you can confidently list out these exceptions during your oral exam, you're going to prove to your examiner that you truly understand the medical regulations governing your flight privileges.
So, look at what we've covered. We've walked through the differences from a third-class medical, the eligibility criteria, the newly expanded operational limits, the CMEC paperwork flow, and those specific disqualifying conditions. By structuring this knowledge clearly in your mind, you are setting yourself up for total success on check ride day. Just remember to review your specific aircraft's limitations, keep your driver's license current, and always verify your dates. Study smart, fly safe, and best of luck on your private pilot check ride. But before you go, remember that BasicMed is really just one small piece of the giant FAR AM puzzle. What other hidden regulatory traps are waiting to catch you completely off guard during your oral exam? Well, you'll just have to join us in the next briefing to find out.